Let's get sweaty.
Hey guys, and welcome to a Shenmue Dojo video. Today's video I'll be looking at Shenmue 4 and how I think the game itself should open up. So I'm talking about the immediate introduction into a new Shenmue game, what I think it should do, what it should establish, and just sort of spitball some ideas I've had around the whole sort of setup for a Shenmue 4 and how that would then lead into potentially the bigger and wider game. Now I'm going to make some sort of little caveats to this. Obviously I'm not mentioning any sort of the presentation, user interface or anything like that, so like your menu screens, anything like that, at this point I don't care. I'm not going to mention it here, but if you are going to do something, just make them better, but I'll leave that point there. And also the idea for this initially sort of started with it all being on the boat at the end of Shenmue 3 of course, but with sort of putting this question out in some of the fan communities, everybody's clamoring for the train chapter. So I'm going to sort of steal that a little bit and base some of this idea around that train chapter as well. So first and foremost, let's dive in and let's get this moving. So first off, we have to have some sort of action orientated build up within Shenmue 4. When you think of Shenmue 1, obviously Ryo's father gets killed in the first 5 minutes of the game. It's quite impactful, it's quite big, it's a massive event. Shenmue 2 obviously doesn't start quite as quickly as that, but you are thrown into losing your bag pretty quickly. You get your first QTE, your first fight pretty, within the first 10-15 minutes of the game, even quicker if you rush through it. Shenmue 3 was a lot slower in this. Now, this doesn't help the game, I guess, in some aspects, especially when we've had the wait that we did, that you're thrown into sort of that slow pacing from the offset. Now, that is very much Shenmue, and I understand that, and I get that. But given that Shenmue was coming back, I think it needed a more impactful opening to really set the scene, set the threat, and everything else that we wanted to have happen. So within Shenmue 4, and this now builds into the idea I've got here, I would combine sort of the opening cutscenes with the tutorial around the game itself, so building in the events from the previous 3 games. Now I know Yu Suzuki has talked about having sort of playable flashbacks in the next Shenmue game, but whether budget allows a lot of them, I don't know. But if it were me, I'd potentially do a load of them at the start, sort of recapping everything so that player is then engaged and can understand what's happened, sort of the major key events there, but also then learn the systems within the game, and then kick things off in sort of a real sort of high impact, rip-roaring action here. And I wouldn't start things on the wall, because I think actually you need to step back from that to get to the wall. And I think with the ideas that have been floating around the community about potentially doing this on the train, originally I was going to have this idea on the boat, I think that's probably a good starting point for a Shenmue 4 game. So picture this, right? We're on the train, and you've got Ryo, Ren, and Shenhua sat there recapping and going over events that have happened leading up to where they are now. So that in itself could introduce a conversations option system with multiple options there, responses. Again, this is an ideal world scenario if there was a lot of money kicking around, that you could have different reactions from different characters to different responses, and essentially that could then maybe tailor in further on to responses and reactions and relationship building further in the game. Just throwing an idea out there, little cool thing there anyway. So what you go over is the events of the previous 3 games. So Shenmue 1, the major events there, obviously your father dying, cutscene for that, doesn't need to be anything else. The Chai fight could be a small introduction to some of the basic fighting mechanics. The 70-man battle, I'd truncate it, I'd make it shorter, but participating in some of that as well. But use the Chai fight and maybe use the 70-man battle to introduce some of the systems on a basic level and bring back your throws, and then potentially at the end of that you bring it together on a basic level and then defeat Chai at the end, so at the boat, and then away you go. You're off into sort of the understanding of the battle system while understanding some of the key events in the first game. It will be a little bit rushed potentially. You could probably fill it out a little bit more to really get some of that detail, but that's a really good opportunity to introduce the fighting system. Then Shenmue 2, the major events you've got there. So you obviously arrive in Hong Kong. That could be a cutscene. Meeting Ewing. Now that is, I think, quite an important part of Shenmue 2. So what I would do here is potentially flesh out the battle system, maybe some combos, and work some bits and pieces out there, and also the moves learning system. If that came back and could come back, that would be a prime opportunity for that to happen. So you could relearn counter elbow assault, for example, with your button presses and all the rest of it, and then later on obviously you learn new moves, and it sort of introduces that idea within the game itself. And she could even say, look, you're going to come across lots of masters on your journey, they are going to teach you things. Make it blatant for the player a little bit, but again, with the sort of way modern gaming is, I think that is quite helpful for modern gamers to sort of go, oh yeah, that's okay, that's going to happen more as we go through the game. Then later on, you've got Save Zhang and Wan Shai, you've got Meeting Ren. Now, meeting Ren, I would use to maybe introduce the money system here. So obviously to meet Ren, you've got to raise $500. Later on in Kowloon, you have to raise $500 again. So what I would do here is use that to introduce the money system. So you could introduce the mini games that you're going to come across, your lucky hits, your big or small, whatever the mini games are going to be. Leave the arcade stuff out the way. I don't think that needs an introduction. I just think that's part of Shenmue and people expect that. But introduce how the money and the economy system is going to work on a very basic level. You could leave the pawn shops and things like that outside of that if you wanted to, or if you really had the time and the space to do it, you could build that in as well and see how that goes. Then obviously going through Kowloon, you've got major events there, but I would probably jump a lot of it just because I think you've got the major event at the end of Kowloon with the cutscene. Obviously you fight Dol Neo, you've got Landy looking over you there, and what I would do there is start introducing your QTEs. So with that would be sort of your basic QTE. So I would strip back a little bit the ending QTE, where obviously you originally take Dol Neo down with the counter elbow. So I'd maybe just scale that back a little bit to have single press or double press QTEs, for example. That I'd leave the action QTEs to a bit later, and you'll see why momentarily. Then obviously you've got the Guilin introduction and Shenhua. So what I would potentially do there is then flesh out that conversation system a little bit more. Natural way to do it, talking to Shenhua, walking to Bailu Village. I think again it fits the aesthetic of Shenmue 2, and you end it obviously in the cave and the big cliffhanger there as well. And then I think you then move into your Shenmue 3 stuff. So your Shenmue 3 stuff, I guess the major events there: Mr. Yuan goes missing, Ryo meets Grandmaster Feng. Now I'd recap that and probably put in a little bit more detail there about why WoW was in Bailu Village, because he obviously met him. I'd just like a little bit more of that, and it's a good opportunity to do it. Learning the body checking in Bailu Village again. So what I do here is reinforce the QTEs and start bringing those action QTE command prompts potentially. Obviously in Shenmue 3, it's I think a 6-button press to actually get the whole thing working. So you could potentially use that as your sort of action QTE or multiple QTE button presses to bring that into play. Obviously you got Yang Lang, he defeats you. So what I would do with that is then put the first option together with the battle system and the QTEs within it. So maybe I'm making the battle system a little bit harder here, but you have your battle system, you're fighting away, you've got your throws, etc. And every now and again a QTE pops up within the system, so you put them together so it like stops things. QTE, think Izumi, think Eileen. If you nail it, great. If you don't, obviously you don't get punished too hard for that. But again, it's a good way to introduce the battle system and QTEs together. Niaowu, obviously you lose to Mr. Ji repeatedly. You've got Li Feng and the sort of the double cross there, Shenhua's kidnap and the castle storming itself, where obviously you meet Niao Sun, you lose the mirror, defeat Ji for the first time. So again, I would probably put all the battle stuff together again in one swoop here. You then got the Landy confrontation, where obviously you get your ass kicked, and then at the end of it you're recapping things from Mr. Yuan with some extra information there, bringing the conversation system to allow you to ask more questions. So ask about the Cliff Temple, ask about the mirrors, ask about the kidnapping, whatever it may be. So then you've essentially recapped everything, and you then put everything in the hands of the player. So before you get dropped into what I would like to happen at the start of a Shenmue 4, you've gone over the major events of this game. Now, admittedly, I've sped through some of these, and I think you'd need to flesh some of these out. But you've got the player in control of those 3 events. They are caught up. So if you were a newbie coming into this game for the first time, yes, you won't have all the intricate details that perhaps you would get if you played the games themselves. Maybe they could be filled in later potentially, but you get the general gist of what the hell is going on, and that's what you need to establish here, because then you are going to attract more people into wanting to give this game a go. So if it's got a good recap, a good tutorial, and gets you ready, then people are going to be wanting to go, do you know what, I am going to explore this, I'm going to pick this up and move things forward. But that's all well and good until you hit the game itself. Now, the game itself, that first opening act, has to be really, really impactful. It can't be Shenmue 3 sort of slow pacing in. I love Shenmue 3, it's a good game, I enjoyed it, but it can't do that. We don't have the time for it, and also the way gamings are now, you need a hook immediately. So all of that payoff, that tutorial, needs to happen here and start building on that from here. So what I would do, if you're on the train for example, is you'll get thrown into a massive battle. Within this, what you do is you establish the Qiyu men as the threat. They are the ones raiding this train. They are after Ryo, they are after Shenhua, they are after Ren. They know where they're going and they are intent on stopping them. You establish that threat of the Qiyu men early in the game, and we need them to be established as the massive threat within this game. They've been at the periphery for far too long. This is the opportunity where you can go, right, let's bring them in, bring the Qiyu men in, and you battle your way through them, and they are that threat. So what you do is you work your way through the Qiyu men. Think the castle storming, think sort of the Yellowhead storming, those sorts of things that have that level of excitement immediately. You're getting well into the battle system here. You're exploring things on your way through, exploring the train on your way through. Explore, fight, go again. Explore, fight, go again. And that repetition kicks in there as well. And then what you end up doing is you get to a boss. Now, this isn't going to be like a key boss, for example. It could be a relation to Nielsen, or maybe even Zimming if we want to go down that road. But you take them down to get the information you need about A, the next location, and B, why they're hunting you down. Because obviously, they are the threat. They've taken over the Cliff Temple. You are going to that Cliff Temple at some point, and we know we're going to Shozo at some point. So we need to understand what are the motivations there for the Qiyu men. Is it, like I say, Nielsen's side of the Qiyu men? Is it Lan Di's side of the Qiyu men? What's going on there? And maybe within that you could establish that a little bit of infighting as well, as obviously we know at the end of Shenmue 3, Nielsen tries to take down and kill Lan Di, so you could feed on that a little bit as well. You could, and now I don't think it fits the idea here, but you could have a major character killed off, like Ren or something like that, for example, but I just don't think it fits the idea here. If I was going to do something like that, I'd probably do it sort of halfway, 2/3 of the way through the game to give Ryo his sort of epiphany moment that sort of makes him wake the hell up to what he's doing, because at the moment his actions haven't really carried that much consequence. They need to. Ren dying could be that point that it all comes together. So anyway, once you sort of battled through the Qiyu men, you got this information you need, then you get dropped into the next area. So again, I'm saying this quite openly, I wouldn't hit the wall now, I'd go straight to Shozo now, because that's the area where you can then establish everything out into sort of true Shenmue type gameplay. So you'd have your street fights, your mini games, your arcades, you can introduce like a tournament system, very similar to Shenmue 3, but maybe with some more stakes on it as well. You could introduce your move learning schemes as well. You could meet masters there. You could go round and learn and move from other people, other fighters, those sorts of things, and explore the world at your leisure while moving the story forward in the Shenmue way that we'd hope to do. But what that then needs to do is build up to a massive second act where, again, there needs to be sort of big peaks in this game, little bits of lull and calm, true Shenmue calm, and then big peaks at the end. Shenmue 2's pacing generally got that well, so I would be going for something very, very similar with Shenmue 4. But as I say, that sort of that 100-mile-an-hour start with Shenmue 4 is massively imperative, I think, to getting that hook for people to come and carry on playing with it. But also that recap of those events, as I say, can act as that tutorial, get people up to speed, get people confident, and away we go, hopefully as a much larger community, into a good Shenmue 4 game that nails the story. Anyway, guys, I'm going to stop there. As I said, it was just some ideas I want to chuck out there. Please feel free to tear them apart as much as you want. As I say, it's just a bit of spitballing, bit of fun. And I thought, do you know what? Let's turn this into a video and let's discuss this, because it is exciting to discuss what a Shenmue 4 could go and do. Obviously, we don't know where that is at the moment. We don't know what's happening with it, but it's still fun to discuss Shenmue 4, what it could do, what we'd like it to do, and where it could take us. So anyway, guys, thank you for dropping in on this video and sticking with me. Don't forget, you can give us a like, share, subscribe on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and all the usual places you can find us. For £2 a month, you can be a member and get all these videos ahead of time. If not, don't worry, it all goes onto the Saturday scheduling system with all the money and funds raised going to the competitions that James and I will put on, and the site running costs that we incur monthly as well. Last thing for me to say, guys, is thank you, as always, for dropping in on the Shenmue Dojo content on all the videos and engaging with the campaign and everything else the community is doing. We are doing a fantastic job. But I'm going to leave things there, guys. I'll be back with another video in not too distant future, and I'll see you all soon, guys. Take care.